Welcome, everyone, to today's deep dive. Before we even get started, we just want to offer a quick blessing and pray that God blesses your day and your entire week as you listen to this.
Yeah, absolutely. A very blessed week to all of you tuning in.
So imagine you are holding the foundational document of your entire civilization, right? Like the ultimate treaty that guarantees your survival, your laws, your future.
Right. The most important piece of paper, or well, stone in this case, that exists.
Exactly. And now imagine that in a fit of absolute uncontrolled rage, you just smash it to pieces against a mountain. I mean, the deal is completely off. The trust is gone.
It's the ultimate breach of contract. I mean,
Yeah.
in our modern world, if one party breaches an agreement that spectacularly, you don't just get a simple do-over.
No, the lawyers get involved, right?
Oh, massive penalties are assessed. You probably never do business with that group of people ever again.
Right, the aggrieved party just walks away.
Hmm.
But what if the aggrieved party, the one who held all the power and didn't break the rules, simply said, "Okay, go cut some new stone. Let's write it down again."
Which is such a wild concept.
It is. And that incredibly tense, entirely counterintuitive moment is our starting point today. We're taking an in-depth look into Deuteronomy chapter 10.
Yeah, and we have a great stack of sources today. We're specifically drawing on the historical and theological insights from the Holman and NAA study Bibles.
Right. And our mission here is to understand what happens, the morning after a civilization nearly self-destructs.
It's a fascinating mission
Hmm.
because we are looking at this ancient text that on the surface might just look like a dry historical travelogue or like a list of archaic rules.
Yeah, a lot of people just skim past the numbers and the weird town names.
Exactly. But when you actually unpack the historical context and the linguistic roots, it reveals these incredibly surprising systemic insights.
Oh, absolutely.
We're looking at the mechanics of systemic resiliency, the very messy reality of leadership succession, and the true meaning of what it means to fear authority.
Which is so deeply misunderstood, by the way.
It really is, and it all leads to this profound, unbreakable connection between ultimate cosmic power and everyday social justice.
So if you are listening to this and thinking, I'm not an ancient historian, don't worry. We are going to look way past the ancient dates and the geography to find those aha moments about human nature and society that totally resonate today.
Yeah, the human dynamics haven't changed at all.
Not one bit. So let's unpack this. We are starting with a literal clean slate, a fresh cut of stone. To set the scene, the Israelites have just survived the ultimate disaster, the golden calf.
Right. They panicked while Moses was on the mountain.
They panicked, they built an idol, and Moses, in his fury, shatters the original tablets with the Ten Commandments. But now he has to go back up the mountain to face the music.
Yes, and the text here is incredibly specific about the mechanics of the second chance.
Okay, what does he have to do?
God commands Moses to cut 2 new stone tablets. They have to be physically identical to the first ones. And he also has to build an ark, like a protective chest out of acacia wood.
Right, the Revis Ark.
Exactly. But the crucial detail that the study Bibles really zero in on is what God says. He will write on them. He states explicitly that he will write the exact same words on these new tablets that were on the shattered ones.
Okay, I have to push back on this premise immediately.
Oh, how so?
Because if we're looking at this like a systemic reboot, it feels like a massive missed opportunity.
What do you mean?
It's like losing a crucial file on your computer after a total system crash, and you are just sweating bullets relieved that there is a backup copy. But if God is rewriting the foundational document right after the people just spectacularly failed, why not version 2.0?
Ah, like an update.
Right, why not add some specific edits like Rule 11. Seriously, you guys, no more golden calves. Why use the exact same words?
It is a brilliant question, and when you dig into the theological framework in the notes, there's a profound reason for that repetition.
Okay, what is it?
The fact that the exact same words are used proves a core tenet of this system. The divine author does not improvise based on human failure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the original vision, the standard for the covenant, remains absolute. It wasn't flawed, and therefore it doesn't need a human-prompted update or like an emergency revision.
I see. So the failure was entirely on the human side, not the legislative side.
Precisely. The standard remains entirely without error. If a law is perfect but the citizens break it, You don't change the law to accommodate the crime.
Right. You keep the law intact and require the citizens to change.
Exactly. And this leads directly to the physical storage of these laws. That acacia wood ark wasn't just some magical, mysterious box.
Right. It had a practical function.
It did. When we look at the broader historical context of the ancient Near East, this aligns perfectly with how major international treaties were handled.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when a suzerain, a great king made a covenant with a vassal state, they didn't have digital clouds to store the PDFs. They created two identical copies of the treaty document.
Let me guess. One for the king, one for the vassal.
Exactly. And to ensure they were never tampered with, these sacred documents were deposited in the most secure locations possible, usually the central sanctuaries or temples of the respective parties.
Okay, so they were placed at the feet of the gods, essentially.
So the Ark of the Covenant serves as a highly secure, mobile diplomatic archive. It is an ancient escrow system.
That is brilliant institutional design.
It really is. The terms of the society are locked away in a secure, neutral location so nobody, not a corrupt king, not a panicked populace, can tamper with them.
Okay, locking the covenant in an escrow box protects the actual text. But words on a stone tablet are ultimately useless without human administrators to enforce them.
Yeah, somebody has to actually do the work.
Right, which brings us to a massive structural problem. From the preservation of the physical covenant, we have to look at the human beings entrusted to guard it. Somebody has to physically carry that box.
Right. A society needs a trusted administrative and spiritual class to manage its most precious institutions.
And this is where the narrative shifts from the mountain back down to the really messy reality of the desert.
It's the travelogue section.
Yes, the text gives us this very specific, almost tedious travelogue. The journey from Beeroth Benijakin to Mosera, and then on to Gugoda and Jotbatha.
Try saying those 5 times fast.
Right. But at Mosera, a major leadership crisis occurs. Aaron, the high priest, dies,
Yeah, that's a huge moment.
and his son Eleazar takes over the priesthood. And right around this time, the entire tribe of Levi is officially separated from the rest of the nation.
They're given a monumental job description.
They are. They are told to carry the Ark of the Covenant, to stand before the Lord to serve him, and to bless the people in his name. But wait, we need to pause here.
Okay, why?
Because if you are listening to this and thinking about basic accountability, this makes absolutely zero sense.
How so?
Because Aaron was a guy who literally helped build the golden calf.
Ah, right. Yes, he was.
He was the facilitator of the ultimate betrayal that caused the first tablets to be broken in the first place. When the people panicked, Aaron collected the gold and fashioned the idol.
He was right in the middle of it.
So putting his family and his specific tribe in charge of the most sacred artifact in the nation doesn't just sound like grace. It sounds like terrible HR management.
It really does.
I mean, how on earth does his family keep the top job? How did this society survive that level of institutional conflict of interest?
It is a staggering contradiction if you are looking at it purely through a modern corporate HR lens. You would expect Aaron to be fired, permanently exiled, or worse.
Yeah, you'd be walked out of the building by security.
Exactly. But the study Bibles highlight this as a profound demonstration of systemic grace that actually stabilizes the society.
Wait, how does that stabilize anything?
Well, despite Aaron's massive failure, and the text doesn't hide it, it's explicitly viewed as a profanation. God's promise to his lineage remains steady.
So it's failing upward.
It looks like failing upward, but it comes with an intense, radical economic catch. It's an accountability mechanism that is arguably stricter than anything we have today.
Okay, I'm listening.
The Levites are given this incredible honor and immense national influence, sure, but the text explicitly states they receive no land inheritance among their brothers.
Wait, none at all.
None. The exact phrasing is, the Lord is their inheritance.
Okay, unpack the economics of that for us, because today, not owning land just means you rent an apartment. What did that mean in the ancient Near East?
In an ancient agrarian society, land is quite literally everything. Land is wealth, it's generational security, it's political power, and most fundamentally, land is survival.
Right, if you don't have a farm, what do you eat?
Exactly. If you don't have a field to grow wheat or pasture to graze sheep, you starve. By intentionally stripping the Levites of land ownership, the system makes them entirely dependent on their service to God.
And practically speaking, on the community.
Right, on the tithes and offerings of the everyday people.
That is wild. It's like a modern politician or a Supreme Court justice being forced to put all of their personal assets into a blind trust that is strictly tied to the median income of their poorest constituents.
That is a phenomenal analogy.
Like if the people go broke, the leader goes broke.
It radically shifts the dynamics of their leadership. Without land, the Levites cannot build massive personal empires. They cannot hoard real estate.
They can't become this untouchable elite class.
Exactly. They cannot create a wealthy aristocracy that isolates itself from the struggles of the common people. Their physical survival is intrinsically linked to the spiritual and social health of the community they are serving.
Right. If the community thrives, follows the covenant, and brings their agricultural ties, the Levites are supported.
But if the system breaks down,
Yeah, if the Levites fail to teach the law properly, or if the people rebel and just stop participating in the societal covenant, the Levites are the first ones to starve.
exactly. It completely removes the temptation of property accumulation from the religious leaders. It forces an absolute reliance on the system they are meant to uphold.
That's fascinating.
It turns what could have been a corrupt, powerful dynasty into a vulnerable servant class that is highly motivated to keep the society functioning justly.
So we have the law protected in an unbreakable box, and the administrators of that law are kept in check by strict economic dependency.
Which is incredible systemic resiliency.
It really is. But what about the everyday Israelite? Because Moses turns his attention to the whole crowd in verses 12 and 13 and lays out the core requirements for the general public in this renewed covenant.
Yes, Moses transitions from the institutional mechanics into a deeply personal exhortation. He lists a series of action verbs that outline the citizen's duty.
Really?
He says to fear the Lord, walk in all his ways, love him, and serve him with all your heart and soul.
Okay.
And then he delivers this very striking, almost visceral command in verse 16. He says, circumcise the foreskin of your heart and stop being stiff-necked or stubborn.
Okay, let's start with that first verb, because I know it trips people up constantly.
Oh, fear. Definitely.
Yeah. We hear fear God, and we instantly think of sheer terror, like hiding under the bed, waiting for a cosmic lightning bolt to strike you if you step out of line.
But tyrant in the sky.
Right. Is the ultimate goal of this beautifully renewed covenant just to keep people absolutely terrified of making a mistake? Because a society built on terror usually collapses into rebellion.
It does, and that is a very common, very damaging misconception of the text. When you look at the linguistic roots, the original Hebrew word used here is yer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this word does not mean cowering in panicked terror. Rather, it implies a deep reverence, a profound awe, and an overriding respect.
So it's not about being scared.
Not at all. Think of it less like the fear of an unpredictable, violent dictator and more like the profound respect you might have for an incredibly wise, immensely powerful parent.
Or like a deeply principled leader. Right. Like if you are learning to drive and you are in the passenger seat with a Formula One world champion at the wheel,
Oh, that's a good one.
you don't cower in terror because you think they're going to crash the car on purpose.
Yeah.
But you have a very healthy fear or deep respect for their mastery of the machine.
Right, because the physics of the road are unforgiving.
Exactly. You listen to what they say because they know exactly what they're doing and the stakes are life and death.
That captures it perfectly. The reverence leads to obedience. Not out of panic, but out of absolute trust in their mastery.
And that trust brings us to that intense, slightly jarring metaphor, circumcise your heart.
Yeah, that's a phrase that requires some ancient context.
Because physical circumcision was already a thing, right?
Yes, in the ancient world, physical circumcision was the established, visible sign of the Abrahamic covenant. It was the outward, fleshly marker of belonging to this specific people group.
So it was the ancient equivalent of carrying the right passport or wearing the right uniform.
Yes. But here, Moses is demanding something much deeper. The Holman and Enninge notes point out that this phrase subtilizes the removal of the old life.
Okay.
It's a radical shift away from an inner attitude of stubbornness. What the text calls being stiff-necked, which is like an ox that refuses to turn when the farmer pulls the yoke.
It's ancient heart surgery.
Truly.
Moses is essentially saying, look, you can do all the outward rituals you want. You can have the physical markers. You can show up to all the festivals. But if your inner will is hard, callous, and sultry, all that outward stuff is completely useless.
Which is a revolutionary idea for the ancient world.
Really? Why?
Because religion in surrounding cultures was almost entirely transactional and external. You gave the god a goat, the god gave you rain.
It was just a business deal.
Right. It didn't matter what was in your heart.
Right.
But here, the demand is for an internal transformation. And the text makes sure to explicitly state that all these rules, all these commands, are, quote, for your own good.
Wow.
It isn't arbitrary control, it's an operating manual for human flourishing.
Okay, let's ground this. If I'm an ancient Israelite and I have this circumcised heart, this deep inner transformation and reverence, what does that actually look like when I walk out my front door into the marketplace?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because as we keep reading, it seems like this internal shift is supposed to completely change how they treat the most vulnerable people in their society.
Yes. This is perhaps the most crucial, breathtaking pivot in the entire chapter.
Okay, lead us through it.
The text establishes God's ultimate, unassailable authority. It says the heavens and the heaven of heavens and the whole earth belong to him. He is the God of gods, Lord of lords, great, powerful, and fearsome.
That is a very intimidating cosmic resume.
Very. But then, immediately after establishing that unmatched authority, it highlights a very specific operational characteristic.
Which is?
He is impartial and he takes no bribes.
Oh, wow. The juxtaposition there is amazing. It's like the CEO of a massive global conglomerate, someone who literally owns everything. Billions of dollars, fleets of private jets.
Right.
Personally stepping out of the high-rise boardroom, walking past all the executives, going down to the street, to personally handle a customer service complaint for a single, struggling person who got overcharged by $5.
That is exactly the dynamic. And to understand how radical that is, we have to remember the sociology of the ancient Near East.
How did the other nations view their gods?
In most surrounding cultures, the gods were essentially seen as cosmic politicians who could absolutely be bribed.
Really?
Oh, yeah. If you were wealthy, you could offer bigger sacrifices, build bigger temples, and essentially buy the favor of the divine court.
Wow, so the wealthy always won.
Always. And the human justice system mirrored this. The Code of Hammurabi, for example, had entirely different sets of punishments depending on your social class. The poor were structurally out of luck.
But this text insists that human wealth cannot sway this God.
Right.
Which means the playing field is entirely leveled.
Yes. And because he is completely impartial, the text says he uniquely executes justice for the orphan and the widow, and he loves the stranger, the immigrant or sojourner, providing them directly with food and clothing.
That's beautiful.
And here is where the rubber meets the road for the citizen. He commands the Israelites to do the exact same thing, and he gives them a very specific reason why.
What's the reason?
Verse 19 says, "Because you were strangers in the land of Egypt."
Oh, man. That is incredible. It is a societal mandate for empathy, born directly from their own trauma.
Exactly. Both study Bibles are very clear on this implication. Those who have been freed from difficult, oppressive situations are fundamentally required to be the first to treat others with dignity.
It's not optional.
It's an active, required empathy. You cannot claim to have a circumcised heart or claim to revere this great cosmic God if you are exploiting the unprotected people in your neighborhood.
The two concepts are inextricably linked.
Exactly. The cosmic, absolute power of God provides a non-negotiable framework for daily, practical social justice.
It totally flips the script on how human nature usually works. I mean, usually hurt people hurt people.
Sadly, yeah.
The abused become the abusers once they get power. But Moses is building a system that says hurt people who have been rescued must protect people.
That is the proof that the system is working.
And that powerful mandate of empathy for the stranger is completely tied to their own origin story as helpless immigrants in Egypt. Which brings us to the stunning mathematical conclusion of this chapter.
Right. Moses finishes this long address by giving the crowd a massive historical reality check.
Yeah, verse 22.
He reminds the people that their ancestors went down to Egypt as a tiny, vulnerable family group of only 70 people. The text calls them 70 souls.
Just 70 people.
But now, as they stand out there in the desert before Moses, listening to the speech, they are a multitude as numerous as the stars of the sky.
If we look at that statistically, going from exactly 70 people to a population the size of a galaxy feels like an astronomical, almost impossible leap.
It's hard to fathom.
How does an ancient listener even wrap their head around that kind of growth?
Well, the historical timeline grounds this hyperbolic language. This didn't happen overnight. This explosive population growth occurred over a period of roughly 430 years in Egypt.
Okay, so a very long time.
Yes. And historians point out that this growth wasn't just a natural demographic expansion. It was understood as the literal, physical fulfillment of the ancient promise God made to Abraham way back in the book of Genesis.
Oh, the promise that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars.
Exactly.
So, for the Israelites standing there in the dust, hearing Moses speak these words, they aren't just hearing a dry history lesson.
No, not at all.
They are the history. They are the evidence.
Exactly. When they doubt if the system can work, or if the broken tablets from the golden calf incident mean the whole deal is permanently canceled, all they have to do is look around.
Wow.
The sheer size of their own crowd, the very existence of their vast community, is the tangible, undeniable evidence of faithfulness to a promise made centuries before.
They survived the 430 years of slavery. They survived their own rebellion. They are still here.
Yeah, they're living proof.
Man, talk about bringing it all full circle. We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, and it's amazing how relevant these ancient structures still feel.
They really do resonate.
We moved from the shattered tablets of a broken promise, the ultimate canceled contract, to a second chance, safely locked away in a mobile diplomatic archive.
The Acacia Wood Arc.
Right. And we saw how society handled a massive leadership failure by giving flawed leaders incomprehensible grace, but stripping them of their land to keep them entirely economically dependent on the health of the community.
A brilliant check on power.
We learned that the system demands not a cowering, panicked terror, but a transformed, circumcised heart of deep, trusting reverence.
Removing that stubborn inner will.
Exactly. And that all of this culminates in a society that is explicitly commanded to use its own traumatic past to fuel a radical, non-negotiable empathy for the marginalized.
The orphan, the widow, and the immigrant.
It really is a masterclass in systemic design. It completely redefines what power and authority are supposed to look like.
It strips away the superficial, transactional nature of ancient religion, and it demands a core psychological transformation that affects every single level of society.
From the high priest with no land down to the most vulnerable stranger looking for food.
Exactly.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over today. We just spent a lot of time analyzing how this ancient society thousands of years ago was evaluated, not by the gold in its temples or the purity of its outward rituals or the sheer strength of its armies.
Right, but by how fairly it treated its orphans, its widows, and its immigrants.
So, what would a truly circumcised heart look like if it were applied to the legal, economic, and social structures of our modern world today?
That's a challenging question.
If the ultimate CEO stepped out of the boardroom to handle the injustice on the street, how would our modern communities have to transform to keep up? It is definitely something to think about the next time you see a shattered contract, a broken institution, or a failed leader.
It might not be the end.
Maybe, just maybe, it's not the end of the world. It might just be an invitation for a much better, much more resilient do-over. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. God blesses all of you listening, and we will catch you on the next one.